What is going on, my fellow nerds? Operator Odd here, and today we are going to be talking about Blood Surge, which is essentially a jack of all trades, master of none build. It is really good at a lot of the content in Diablo 4 for Season 4, but it's not the best at any of the content. But regardless, Blood Surge is a very easy build to play. Not necessarily easy to gear, but it's very easy to play. And it's basically just hold down the trigger and it just does the work for you. And the way that we're going to build Blood Surge going into Season 4 that I feel is the best is basically going to be the Gauntlet version of Blood Surge that we had in Season 3, but we're going to put nitromethane into the engine and it's just going to take off to the moon. So there are many ways to build Blood Surge, many ways to build it. But the thing is that there are four main things that we need to solve with Blood Surge, and that is going to be, we need to have fix the essence issues with the amount of attack speed that we're running. We need to have maximum crit. We need to upkeep Bone Storm, and we need to upkeep Grasping Veins. Those are the four main factors of making sure that Blood Surge works. And many different versions of Blood Surge have a different way of how we are solving those issues. But by solving those issues, we are basically drawing from another lever that basically decreases the effectiveness of it. And this is the problem. It's like Sever. It's just trying to fix too many problems, and essentially it just can't draw from everything, and it kind of falls a little bit lackluster. Now, this is the best compromise that I was able to find, and I think it's going to perform in dungeons up to the boss very well, but then against the boss is going to have some problems, but we'll get into that. All right, so let's talk about how Blood Surge is working. So essentially the way that we have found through multiple seasons, the best way to guarantee these overpowers is just using Paranormal Blood Surge. You can use Rothma's Vigor with the Blood Orbs, and we can produce a lot of Blood Orbs with different variants of the build. Like one of the ways that you could do this is you can run Curor's Embrace, and then you could run Embalming. So when you consume a corpse, you have a 30% chance to spawn a blood orb, and then Curor's Brace consumes the corpses. So those two things can combo on top of each other, and you can just produce blood orbs everywhere, and you pick up the blood orbs and you guarantee an overpower. Here's the thing. You need to walk over the blood orbs. The blood orbs have a very small pickup radius, and that only gives you one guaranteed overpower. It doesn't like stack, right? You don't like get multiple overpowers with Rothman's Vigor. You get one. So it just creates kind of a problem. So we found through practice that the best way to guarantee these overpowers is just attacking and getting to these every six attacks of Blood Surge, or every six casts of Blood Surge, getting this overpower. That's basically been the best way that we can do this. The way that we're going to do this is that we're just going to max out attack speed. So we have 100% attack speed in the build. We're going to have attack speed in our two-handed weapon, our gloves, and our ring. We're going to allocate one masterwork into the two-handed weapon. This will put us at 100%. The next thing that we are going to do is we're going to be running Rothma's in the weapon. This is going to give us another 100% in bucket 2. There are 2 buckets for attack speed, and so we have 100% in our gear. We have 100% from the aspect. That means we have 200% attack speed. This is the maximum amount of attack speed that we can have in the game, and that is going to allow us to cycle through these Blood Surges super efficiently. The problem is Blood Surge costs a lot of essence. It costs 30 essence per. That's the second highest next to Bone Spirit, which just consumes all of your essence. This is very expensive to cast. So we need a way to essentially regenerate essence or to lower the essence cost. So the way that I did this was that I ran resource cost reduction in the two-handed sword. That is greater affix and double rolled into it. That'll give us 60% resource cost reduction. And then we have double masterwork resource cost reduction in the ring. This is going to put us at around 70 to 75% resource cost reduction because they're inverse multipliers. And then we also run Ring of Starless Skies, which is going to give us another 40% resource cost reduction. And that is going to allow Blood Surge to only cast like 3 to 5 essence to cast, and we can just permanently cast them forever. But we still need a way to get essence back because though they only cost 3 to 5 essence, we're still going to be attacking super fast. It will eventually drain our essence. So how do we get it back? The way that we're going to do this is we're going to run Boots with attacks, reduce evade cooldown with Metamorphosis and Tybalts. So when you evade, you become unstoppable. When you become unstoppable, you get 50 essence. And then because you're attacking so fast, you'll just reduce the cooldown of that evade, and you can do it again, and you can keep your essence up. That's essentially how we're going to do it. That's how we did it in the Gauntlet. That's how we're going to do it here. Super good, right? Okay, so we have the essence problem solved, and then we need to solve crit. So the way that we're going to solve crit is that we have 48.3% just in the rolls that we have in the gear. We are then going to be running Bone Storm, which will give us another 20%. So we go from 48% to 68%. And then we're going to have another 38% from Grasping Veins. That will put us at 100% crit. When we crit, it affects our overpowers, and when overpowers crit, they do a lot of damage. So that's why we definitely want to veer into a crit-based build with the overpowers, because the overpowers will hit so hard on that crit that it will just delete the entire screen. That's the idea, anyways. They should be overpower critting for somewhere between like 40 and 50 mil in this build. It'll be pretty hot. It'll be pretty sweet. All right. So then the next thing that we need to solve then is Bone Storm duration, because Bone Storm gives us 20% critical hit chance. It also gives us damage reduction, and it also gives us a defensive with the aspect of Shielding Storm. You'll see kind of a recurring pattern. Bone Storm's kind of good, right? There's like one build that doesn't run Bone Storm. Okay, the problem here is that we run into a couple issues. We cannot run rapid ossification in this build because we have so much resource cost reduction that we can no longer proc rapid ossification fast enough. We can also not proc enough abhorrent decrepifies within a specific time gated like amount of time to proc abhorrent decrepify enough times, because Blood Surge's lucky hit chance is abysmally low. It's just not going to be enough to actually proc it enough times. Even though we're running Blight as well, which does have a high lucky hit chance, we're not going to be casting enough Blights. Blights give that 20% multiplicative damage modifier. That's why we're running it. It's also going to do something for the bosses that we'll talk about in a second. But we're not going to be permanently casting Blight. We cast like one Blight, and then we just go into Blood Surge rotation, right? So how do we do this? The way that I found is probably going to be the best way is that we run Bone Storm duration in our weapon, and we run Osseous Scale in our ring. This is going to make Bone Storm last for 30 seconds. And then when we run ultimate cooldown reduction in our amulet and we run cooldown reduction in the helm, this is going to reduce the cooldown of Bone Storm from 60 seconds to about 48 seconds, and Bone Storm lasts for 30 seconds. So essentially we're giving ourselves 30 seconds to reduce the cooldown of Bone Storm by 18 seconds. And I think that we can do that with Decrepify and attacking at maximum value with this Blood Surge, because we're going to have the main Drain, we have the main Nova, and then we have the secondary Nova from Blood-Bathed aspect that is going to allow us to cycle through a lot of instances of damage to proc abhorrent Decrepify, and I think it's going to be enough, especially if we are running Blight as well. I think it'll work. I'm not for sure, but I'm hoping that it does. So that's how we solve the Bone Storm uptime. The last is going to be the Grasping Veins uptime, because Grasping Veins is going to be the way that we make things vulnerable with Plagued Corpse Tendrils being right here. We make things vulnerable with that. It's also going to crit cap us, and it's going to give us a 75% separate global damage modifier that is multiplicative to all of our damage. It's really strong. We need to keep this up forever, right? Now, throughout the dungeon, this isn't going to be a problem. You walk into a room, you cast Blood Surge, the little peons die, you cast Corpse Tendrils, and ta-da, you don't need to worry about anything, right? It's pretty easy. What happens when you go against a boss, though? When you go against a boss, we need to generate corpses, and we can do that running Hewed Flesh. We can run Hewed Flesh, we can run Blight, and then we can also have Blood Mist that produces corpses. So we have a bunch of corpses that we can produce. The problem is this sucker right here. Osseous Scale is going to suck up the corpses. So the issue that we have to play around this is that we actually have to walk up to the boss. Let's say that we have 10 seconds left in our Bone Storm as we walk up to the boss. We have to Blight and go through our rotation and do our thing, cast Corpse Tendrils once. And then when Bone Storm is about to go down, we have to make sure to cast Corpse Tendrils before we cast Bone Storm. Because if we recast Bone Storm, we're going to suck up all the corpses. We have no corpses for Corpse Tendrils to activate Grasping Veins, and now we're in a really screwed position because that is just so much damage. So the way that you have to play this is that you have to place Grasping Veins and then cast Bone Storm. And essentially what's happening is that Grasping Veins is going to last for 6 seconds, so you're giving yourself 6 seconds to hopefully produce more than 8 corpses. Hopefully. With like 2 Blight casts and just spamming Blood Surge, we're hoping that we can spawn 8 corpses within 6 seconds, and I just don't think that's going to happen. I think what we're going to have to do is we're going to have that 6 seconds. We're going to produce as many corpses as we can, and then after that 6 seconds, we're going to have to enter Blood Mist to produce 4 more corpses, and then when we come out, that's when we will have the corpses. We cast Corpse Tendrils, and then we can re-go into our rotation. I think that's going to be the best way to play this to meet the main weakness of the build. Now, things that I want to go over in terms of gear selection here. Why are we not running Kuro's Brace? Well, Kuro's Brace consumes corpses, and we need corpses to cast Grasping Veins. So that's like the main issue why, but on top of that, we are going to be missing another aspect, and every aspect that we have is super powerful in this build. So that just doesn't work. And then the rolls that we get from Legendary Gloves with the tempering effects are just much more worth it. Okay, the next thing is, why are we not running Blood Moon Breaches? Why are we running Tybalt's Will? Because Blood Moon Breaches literally just give so much more damage. The reason being is because we need a way to get Essence back, and Tybalt's Will with Metamorphosis gives Essence back. It gives a nice 20% damage modifier. It also does give damage reduction versus close, which is great for a Blood Surge build because we are always going to be close with the Nova. So I think that Tybalt's Will just works a little bit better, even though we're losing some damage. The fact that we have this resource utility, this damage reduction, is going to be very nice in combination suits. And then the last thing is why we're not running Death Speaker's Pendant. And Death Speaker's Pendant, unfortunately, is just not good. It's just not. Being able to have an aspect like this with all the rolls that we can get is just way more powerful than what Death Speaker's Pendant can ever do. It just does not do nearly enough, not even close. They need to buff that substantially. And by substantially, I mean like by a factor of like 100. Maybe not that high, but it needs to be much better because it's just not reaching that. So I think that is the way that we're going to play Blood Surge. The Paragon board is going to be basically the same that we ran in Gauntlet. And the build description will be, or the build will be in the description below. So go ahead and check that out if you are a Blood Surge boy. Like I said, there's many ways to build Blood Surge. So this isn't the end all be all. This is just the best way that I feel Blood Surge is going to be able to play. I could be totally incorrect, but that's what theory crafting is for. So if you liked this video, make sure to like, comment, subscribe in the comments section below. We have many more builds, many more guides coming out over the next few days. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, I have nothing for you. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Operator Otter out.